you for the Game Changer, Volume 8. And, I was adding it up because I've done 7 of the 8 in the publishing. It's about 160 people. So that's really, really a lot of fun, and really proud to say that. So I would like to just open up this for conversation. And since we have one gentleman in the midst, we're going to start with asking you, Malcolm, what's the name of your chapter and what do you do in the world?
The name of my chapter is Surviving the Storm. And I'm branded as the bully prevention comedian. So I speak about anti-bullying and resilience.
Awesome. Very good. And for you, Julie, what's the name of your chapter and what is your work in the world?
Thank you, Becky. So excited to be here. My chapter is chapter 13, Nightmare Achievements, and I'm a leadership strategist, consultant, and coach.
Well, welcome to the call. How about for you, Joyce?
Oh, thanks. My chapter is 12, Julie, so they can read ours in succession. So mine is Rediscovering Purpose, Triumph After the Tsunami. And what I do in the world is guide leaders to help them transform their expertise from one realm to another realm, because that's what I was able to do in my life.
Very good. Interesting. That'd be interesting to see how that happened. And Pamela?
So my chapter is chapter number 21. It's titled One More Thing, The Deep Abyss of Burnout.
Beautiful.
And what I do in the world is my mission is to bring the brain into business life and learning. And part of that is basically to change the way that we work and change what work means to us by integrating the brain.
Very cool. Could you tell a little bit more about what that means?
What that means is I see a day, and I talk about this in my chapter, where we will work in a way that lights up our brain. We will utilize technology to solve the unimportant problems, giving us time so that we can be more creative and to more creatively solve the problems we don't have time to solve right now, because we are so inundated with so many other things. And as well as what I help people to see are the things that individually light up your brain and help you to work in a state of play and flow, as opposed to this is work. It has to be hard.
That's a great song title. You light up my brain. I love that.
Yeah, you and I'll have to work on that one, Malcolm.
Awesome, Malcolm. So Malcolm, why bullying? What's the story behind that, and why is that a passion in your world?
Well, I lost my ability to walk and talk when I was a kid, and then it took me. I was very, very fortunate because it took me about a year to sort of get back to being able to at least function. I like to say I was like a 10-year-old Frankenstein's monster, and I could barely, walk. And then, but my mom threw me into school long before I was ready, and I was bullied by the children for a couple of years, of course, and then that, of course, brought up the interior bully that has lasted my entire life, And so that is what sparks and motivates me to want to go out and change the world and stop all this bullying. And
Well, kids can probably be some of the worst bulliers. And sometimes they can be so mean. And
it starts with the parents.
yes,
Mhm.
yes, it does start with the parents.
Mhm.
Absolutely. It's what they hear, it's what their environment is, and that's what they know. And it seems like it really easy to do when, when as a child.
It's true.
Very needed, the work that you do. Thank you. Julie, tell us a little bit more about your chapter and what the passion is behind it.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I'll have a lot in common with Pamela, where there's a bit of burnout in addressed in my chapter as well. So, really, my personal purpose is to help inspire purposeful engagement in work and life, and that has to do with loving what you do and being good at what you do, and applying your natural, motivating and inspiring skill sets that come pre-installed and easily developed in you. And I did that myself. I really identified some innate strengths of my own really early on. One of my first jobs, I was 16 years old, and I was in a situation where it became clear to me that good communication and leadership was something that I noticed and developed easily. And I started applying that in my work early, and created a whole career out of it, doing global leadership development and executive human resources and management development programming and things like that. And I thought that I was inspired and engaged in my work, and I was, but to my own life's detriment. I was good at what I did, and I became kind of addicted to what I did, and neglected self-care, life care, family care, to an extent that I ended up in severe burnout myself. And that was my big game changer, basically, to really see what was important, and I had to be brought face to face up to it. And so now that has helped really fill out my work as I help create experiences for people that are designed to inspire that purposeful engagement in work and life. The and life is key. And this opportunity to write this story up in my chapter was something I had never done before. I hadn't really seen it all hooked together. So this was actually a very transformational exercise for myself to see how it all came together.
That's beautiful. And I do feel like writing sometimes helps connect the dots to everything. It's just where things kind of make sense, where maybe you hadn't considered some of these things in that depth. But when you have to put pen to paper and actually write it out, it's a whole different thing. Yeah.
That's right.
Very good. Thank you. And Joyce, how about for you?
I find that so interesting that you said that, Julie. I didn't know that this was the first time, that you wrote this. This for me, mine is really a lot about life transformation and rediscovering purpose. That's in the title. But this is my actually third try at writing this story. I have published this story before, but not like this. So I think it was totally encouraging to me, and hopefully it's encouraging to other people to hear that I feel like my first two sort of tries, even though they're out there in the world, were epic fails. I'd be sort of embarrassed for people to read it, but I do understand what the barrier was a little bit in the writing at this time, Becky. When you write something that is kind of raw and realistic, and your intention, though, is to help it to transform someone else's life, it becomes a living thing beyond yourself. And when you can get to the point where it's really not about you that you're writing this, it's really for a greater purpose, then for me, that helped me. That helped remove that kind of barrier that I felt like I was telling a whiny story about a problem in my life and whining about it, because my 3 older brothers would have none of that whining, you know, so can't do that. So the overarching theme of the story is about mentors, real, live, historical, very close and personal to my heart mentors. And I talk about things that I learned from them and along the way, and what the catalyst was for one quite dramatic event that impacted myself and my family in my life, and how through time, you know, sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's not so fast that we get the answers, but going through it with grit, grace, and gratitude, and finding a way to enjoy that process of moving through and taking your very next best step, whatever that is, because sometimes we only need to look at the very next step. We can move on and rediscover a purpose, and maybe a deeper purpose or a transformed purpose, looking forward rather than looking behind.
Beautiful. Very good. I know that all of us, I think there's not one of us in the world that has not undergone something that is just really incredible. And oftentimes that's how we lead. That leads us to the path and how we show up in the world and lead in the world, because it's those life-changing things that help us to shine and make a difference for everyone else. Hi, Laura.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I through my magic powers, the powers of magic, I magically give us someone else, another fabulous author that I just wanted to mention.
Thank you, Malcolm. Yay!
Boom.
He did it, Laura. He manifested you through magic.
Ta-da!
It's been a technology day. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Thank you for that, Malcolm. That was so sweet.
You're welcome.
Oh, that's awesome. Laura.
Then here, and I finally hit the right button. Anyway,
Oh,
yes.
I'm happy you made it. I was like, where's Laura? So tell us about your chapter and the motivating factor behind deciding to participate this year.
Oh, wanting to tell your story. I mean, we're all bursting with that. I think that drive and motivation. It's been so great to hear some of you all here as I was sitting here, but you couldn't see me. I think it was fascinating that, you know, in one sense, like Julie, it's really the first time that I have told the story the way that I have. And so, you know, Laura Jackson Liu, as not only a coach, author, speaker, consultant, but realizing that I was a messaging strategist, and you know what was at the core of how I helped people. I've helped people for so long. I mean, individuals, entrepreneurs, Fortune 100 companies, you know, what was really at the core of that. And I realized people's message, your message is so profound. And I know because I lived it, right? Trying to, how do I articulate what it is that I do and how I help people? And, you know, literally to go years and decades trying to figure that out and how to express that, when at the crux of the story, here I am in a mastermind where you're supposed to be safe and you go around and share who you are and what you do. And they're like, you sound really passionate, have no idea what you do. And then went on from that, just this person who wasn't facilitating took over. Now, not a life or death story, but when you've been wrestling with this for a long time and you've paid a lot of money for branding and you know that you help people, it took me a while to really get to that phrase of messaging strategist. Your message, whether you're creating a 5 or 10 year strategic plan, back down to, can you articulate everything in one sentence? And I have like a 1 sentence formula that I help people with, because your message is the thread throughout your entire business. And we're all here. And I move your mission forward. I am Move the Mission mentor. And so it's your message is at the heart of that. And so that's why I'm so passionate about it. I'm thrilled to be part of the Game Changer Volume 8 and to be here today.
Oh, that is awesome. And we're so happy that you could join us today. So my next question is, why is it so important to lead in today's world? And I'll start with you, Laura, if you don't mind.
I was trying not to bust out laughing because the world doesn't have enough leaders, because we need real leaders who stand in who they are, in authenticity, in integrity, to help others move forward. I mean, the world needs them. I mean, I'm sure there's more that I could say, but it's an extraordinary time, probably more than ever. And the another piece here is that for people to be heartened that every single person brings a unique aspect to this world,
Absolutely.
right? There's nobody who's doing exactly what somebody else does. And we may be talking about transformation, we be talking about leadership or any topic, but everyone brings their own unique aspect to that. So the whole world needs you. And I think embedded in that is leadership. We are leaders when you stand in that and to help others.
That is beautiful. Thank you. For you, Pamela, why do you feel it's important to lead?
I feel that it's important to lead because of the fact that as a leader gives you that confidence that I have the voice and to use that voice. And I feel as though that now more than ever that more and more leaders are saying and giving that permission to those that are around them to say, if there's anything that you do that you have a question about in how I am leading, I want you to ask it. And what that's doing is essentially by an aspect of equality, that we are all equal. I think we're changing the hierarchical structure of how we work and how we interact with each other, in that it's not always a top-down way of making decisions that works best, and that we all bring a valuable and unique experience to the solving of any problem. And so that's why those that I work with are those who are mostly aspiring leaders, who we really need at the table, where those really important key decisions are being made.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for sharing. What about for you, Malcolm?
Well, we need leaders, because if we didn't have leaders, we would all be followers, just going around like little chicks, wandering around, chick, 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 and no one would know where to go. So, that's why we need leaders. It's very interesting that you chose me after Pamela, but actually I manifested you to do that. It was like more of my voodoo, Malcolm voodoo, but because I am very much a leader. I'm a postmodernist leader. So, and what I mean by that is postmodern belief is there are no absolutes. There is no that hierarchical structure that Pamela was talking about doesn't really exist, or should exist, or only exists in the minds of white men usually. But sorry, and I believe very much about leading from within and helping others helping others lead, turning other people into leaders. Being a leader myself, but turning other people, the people who are surrounding me, into leaders. So I think that is very important, and it's very important to have that type of leadership, just because it when we come to bullying, when we talk about bullying, and when we talk about a lot of other things like finding your purpose, Joyce, and much other things like that, it all comes down to self-confidence and self-discovery. And I think it's important to have people that empower everyone else, because once everyone else is empowered, then they will find their purpose. They will not be victims to bullies. They won't have to feel like they have to be a bully. And it's wonderful. And besides that, we have someone to say, here's the way to go, so we're not, chaos.
Very good. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Joyce.
Wow, it's some great comments, everybody. I think a little bit pulling this together, what I'm hearing everybody saying is that there's kind of two kinds of leaders in the world. So we want to talk about positive leadership, and that's what everybody is talking about here. And what are the qualities of positive leadership? There's striving for excellence, which is in all leadership. That could also be a negative type leadership, striving for excellence. But positive leadership is based on values or virtues, if you would, of and then attaining that excellence. A positive leader not only strives for that, but exhibits that in their actions. So their actions are going to align with their words. And then what happens, why leadership is so valuable, is because then those followers, meaning in the positive sense of the word followers can sound like a negative thing, like it is not needed, but it's a very necessary element of leadership. The followers are as essential as the leader. And therefore it continues sort of a life cycle of good. Being good, doing good, and that creates more good in the world, more good for people. So because there are negative leaders, we need positive leaders.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And for you, Julie.
Yeah, what a great question, and so many good answers and perspectives. That's what I love about, all of the authors in this book, is that everybody comes to goodness in the world in a different in a different way. Why are leaders important? Why is leadership important? As Pamela said earlier, being able to let technology do the easy stuff so that we can work on the more fun stuff. It's so necessary, because one thing I've heard recently is the only thing that AI, artificial intelligence, can't do or won't be able to do is do something humans have never done before. It can only take what's already been manufactured to make new things out of that material. And so all that's left is leadership. After all the stuff is repurposed and redone and roboticized, what's left is leadership. With the ubiquitousness of technology, it's everywhere. It will do more and more things. With the pace of change, how quickly things change, with the complexity of our institutions, organizations, relationships, climate, pick everything. All that's left is the creativity it takes to listen for ideas, notice how to connect dots together in a different way, create something that you can contribute to the world in a way nobody else can, which is what we heard so much of from everybody else. It's all that's left is leadership. So hopefully we all figure out how to do it.
Well, it's always a constantly learning, because where one may shine, the other one may not. But that doesn't mean the other one doesn't shine. So the next question I have is about the power of storytelling. Why is storytelling, and something that AI cannot do either? They can't tell our personal stories. They may be able to enhance a little piece of it, but really the heart and soul of a storytelling. Why is storytelling so important today? And I'll start with you, Julie.
Storytelling. Oh my goodness. There are professional storytellers.
Mhm.
And when you listen to a professional storyteller, I'll speak for myself. When I listen to a professional storyteller, I am vacuumed into their world, right? And I feel things that I hadn't felt before in a different way. I get taken out of my own familiar imagination or my own familiar kind of interpretation of the world. And I get brought in to see the world from a completely different set of eyes, in a completely different way. And that forms for me a connection that is, richer, deeper than the usual connections. And so when I get to tell my story, and as we were all as authors encouraged to tell our story, reflect back on the most emotional times in your life, reflect back on what was most meaningful or most game-changing for you, and share that vulnerability, that emotion, that humility, whatever it took. Being able to share that creates connections that wouldn't otherwise be able to happen. So I know as a listener, I appreciate being brought into that world. And I hope as an author, people can appreciate, being in my world a little bit, and we make a connection that didn't exist before.
Thank you. Very well told. Laura Jackson, or Laura Jackson Lou, would you mind to share why you feel that storytelling is important?
Absolutely. And, Julie was just so beautifully eloquent in her sharing. And one of the things that I begin with is when all of us are watching a movie and it's like you are in that movie, you just lost track of where you are and who you are, right? You're completely enveloped in that. Versus when you watch a movie, you're here and you're right here and you're waiting and what's this character going to say next, right? So you're not really drawn in. We could all stand up and give our professional talks and say, this is what I'm here to speak on, and these are my 3 steps, and this is what you need to do to be successful. You're not connecting with people. So it's that magical connection that we can make with stories, especially when it's our own, that it is the connection with the audience. It is being seen and heard. It is them seeing if they can relate and see themselves in that position. It is being human and vulnerable, and it's experiential. Like that's where the magic happens. So there is great power in there. And there's more things we could say. I mean, it is connecting. That is the place from which I believe you can truly inspire other people. What else is possible? It's for each of us to get out of our comfort zones, because the transformation happens in uncomfortableness, right? So
Right.
what else, the infinite possibilities, and we can't get there unless we stretch. So we can say, hey, I've been through this, and I know maybe you have experienced, if not this, something equally challenging, and there's more that's possible. And that only happens with stories.
You very well said from both of you. That is so rich. In working with so many authors, I have one author. This is the second time he's come back for another book, and it's on financial planning. And now both times I've had to say, can we put some story in there? It's not all facts and figures, please. And because you pick up the book, I get the manuscript, and there's not one story. And I'm okay. We have to start kind of back at the beginning, can we weave the storytelling? Because until we can weave that storytelling into what we're teaching, we don't connect the hearts. And that's, to me, that is the very fiber of how to make it. That's part of leadership. That's part of really making a difference in the world. So I have another question, and that is, how do you view the world today? We have a tumultuous world, a lot of things going on, but my feeling is that there's a tremendous amount of goodness in the world, and that what we're doing creates a ripple effect out to the world. Pamela, share how you view the world we're living in at this point.
I see the world as going through a huge amount of change in many areas. We're changing the way that we look at the world, and with that, there's, if you look at the last 100 years, at the number of changes that have happened, not just in the way of technology. I mean, if you look at the number of inventions in the last 100 years, it's astounding.
It is.
And that, as well as also the other thing that is changing is the amount that we know and the amount that we're learning. And because of the fact that we have the ability to exchange ideas more freely, we have the technology that connects us to people that we would not otherwise have worked with. For the last 5 years, I've worked with scientists from around the world, learning about how the brain works. And without technology, I don't know how I would work with a scientist in South Africa. And,
amazing. Yes.
Yes. And to be able to pick her brain and have an understanding of what they've come to learn in the lab. Beyond that, it's allowing us to also be able to really say, well, what are the things that are important to me? What are my values? Because of the things that are changing, it's really giving us the opportunity to basically plant our flags. These are the things that are important to me. These are the things I don't want to move or to change, even though there's all these other things that I can change. As we were talking about leadership, I was thinking to myself that really I had another answer. And that is, the first and foremost, we have to be the leader of ourselves. Lead ourselves. Before you can lead anybody else, you have to lead yourself.
Very much.
And especially during this time. And I know that a lot of people, they don't like change. I have members of my family that they basically, like my father, has done the same thing every day at the same time for the last 40 years. I have told him that his rut is so deep, we will not have to bury him. and it gives us the opportunity to learn and to grow.
Right. Thank you for sharing. Welcome. Leadership, how do you feel about leadership today and why it's so important?
How I feel about leadership today. Well,
In a world that's quickly changing.
well, leadership was it's really hard to talk about the world because I'm not in the world. I really only experience our country. So let me just talk about our country. So our country right now is pink because of the whole Barbie explosion. And it changes. It changes a lot. You know, whatever's popular, whatever's marketable at that time, that's how our world is, our country is sort of like a chameleon. And so going back to storytelling, actually, because I am one of the personal storytellers that you mentioned, going back to storytelling, it's it's important to have a leader or someone who knows about storytelling and how to effectively tell a story, because, and again, we're talking about something else really mentioned about AI, is because with AI, they don't know, they can only, how did you put it, Julie? Yeah, I think you put it, they can only, um,
Only do what's already been done, basically. They can't generate new things originally.
exactly, right. Well, with storytelling, because it's such an engaging art form, like people have mentioned, a good leader can lead with storytelling and help people write their stories and create change in the world. So we're not always just going with newest marketing ads. You know, we don't have to be pink. We can be blue. We can be orange. We can be purple with yellow polka dots. And that was interesting. Okay, and and it all comes back to leadership and having a leader or leaders who know how storytelling works and how to spread that beauty. So, and actually, I also wanted to mention real quickly, talking about leaders, not in this country or in this world, but as far as this book, I also want to really give props to you, Becky, because you've been doing this for 8 volumes, and you've got it all, it's all, you give it to us, you give us what we need in order to market. You have arranged these interviews for us. You do so much, and so it's very important to recognize your leadership, Becky. Thank you very much.
Thank you. How awesome. I truly appreciate that. It's one of the joys, to think of the number of authors that are able to impact the world by their message. And it was one of those ways, speaking from the stage, all the things that we do. But think about this world that we live in today compared to what you talk about the changes in 100 years. And I think back to when COVID started and how many had never even used touch Zoom, didn't know what Zoom was at that point. And how it transformed lives. But if COVID had come along 10 years earlier, would we be able to have those connections because of the technology? I think in so many ways, these big things that come up that are really tough also have provided us some way to grow, a way to really look inside and go deep because of what a big change has happened. And so it isn't all bad because we look at the bigger and look at how many of us have published out, whereas years ago, it was not like this. We didn't have that ability to have a book put on Amazon and printed within days of being put there, and we had it in our hands. Look at what the beauty that is in our world. Our ability to have a live stream like this, live on YouTube, live on Facebook, and the connections that we need to make, and we wouldn't know anyone of you if we haven't been able obviously have amazing connections in the technology as well. So it's a real, we do live in a truly blessed time, and I get wonder what our grandkids are going to be experiencing. And I think by being in today, we provide a better way, that groundwork, because they're the future. And if we provide that, that's all the foundation for them, then they can grow and we'll look at them and go, wow, because I can ask my grandkids a question. Right away, they have the answer. And with homeschooling, my daughter growing up, we had to look at the encyclopedias, the dictionaries, and we didn't have a computer when we first started into homeschooling. And now they'll go to YouTube and say, "Oh, the answer for you." You know, isn't that amazing? So, question, Joyce. How did participating in this in writing your chapter, sharing your message, how did it impact you on a personal level?
I'm going to put it in the context of this conversation that we're having today. So it impacted me on a personal level with the art and the creative science of storytelling, and putting my own story into a framework and a perspective that could reach into someone else's art. And that is the art form of that. And whether storytelling is visual art, a performance art, whatever kind of art that storytelling comes out as an age-old process. And we know that, you know, the emotions engages, ignites innovation for people. And so that impacted me a lot in terms of the biggest thread would be simplification. Taking my story spans about 20 years, and it's time to work. So I had to learn to simplify 9 important threads and share that thread through the story. Remember, I was writing a master's thesis, big important list. And it's the leadership of the conversation today. It impacted me